Good evening, everyone. It is Thursday, February 26, 2026. It is now 5:30 p.m., and I will call the Salem Area Mass Transit District Board meeting to order. Okay. Will the clerk of the board please note our attendance of a quorum? And that brings us to our safety minute. General Manager?
All right, thank you. So this month's safety minutes be presented by the Communication Division. Looks like Seth Hamlin is making that. So come on up.
Thank you, General Manager Pollock, and good evening, President Inhofe Presley and members of the board. So today's safety moment is about the Smith Safe Driving System. As I'm sure you're all aware, the bus operators use the Smith system every single day to create space around their bus, which grants them visibility to see potential hazards early, and that gives them more time to make informed decisions and be proactive in their driving instead of reactive. So I'm going to focus on key one, aim high in steering. So typically, people only look about 3 to 6 seconds into their future. So you're looking about 3 to 6 seconds ahead where you're going to be. That's fine when you have a walking speed of 3 to 4 miles an hour. But then what ends up happening is we go and create the automobile, and we hop in there. Now we're traveling 30, 40, or 50, 60 miles an hour plus. So with that being said, we get back in the vehicle, we're going down the road, but we're still only using that 3 to 6 second eye lead time. So you'll hear that expression after a collision, I have no idea where that car came from, or that person came out of thin air. Well, I don't think that's ever actually happened. I think what actually happened is that they were only looking 3 to 6 seconds ahead. So what the Smith system recommends is that you elevate your eye lead time to a minimum of 15 seconds. This will allow you to see potential hazards with enough time to give yourself the reaction that you need to either move out of the way or slow down or stop. So a little demonstration we can all practice to illustrate this. Oftentimes I hear people say, if I'm looking out ahead, I'm missing everything up in front of me. So what you can do if you want to participate is if you put your hands out in front of you and you just look down at your hands, what you're doing is using that 3 to 6 second eye lead time, and you're missing everything out in front of you. I could hold up my fingers if you look directly at your hands, and I'd ask how many fingers am I holding up? You really can't tell. But now, look out ahead again. How many fingers am I holding up? 2. But as you're looking out, you can actually still see your hands in front of you. So by looking out 15 seconds, you can see everything out here without missing anything down below. And that concludes my safety moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been thinking about the safety moment that we received for our task force meeting, our work session as well. I've been practicing in that as well, just like trying to look around a little bit more. Thank you very much. I don't believe we have any announcements or changes to the agenda. No presentations, so straight into public comment. And I think we have one in the room, Tyler McCulley.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the board. The Seahawks won, first off. Must say it, I had to wear this shirt. I've got one I paid $45 for, but it is dirty. Wow. It's been a whirlwind last week. It's getting crazy out there. I was out on Lancaster coming back north from the Yard Food Park on Monday when it was torrential rain. And that intersection at State and Lancaster, I swear people were speeding. Especially, I think it was especially dangerous from just because the weather. People should have been going a lot slower. And man, I think also in general, I feel like there's been a lot more other safety things or whatever. There's been a couple of times I've been nearby other problematic people. I think one of those was last night on my way home, down here at the Transit Mall. As I was arriving, security was there, but he didn't see the part where after that person got on the bus. So I don't know. I don't know if more people are riding or if the general public's mental health is declining or what, but I feel like I've had more sort of close encounters with those kind of people. And as far as me being my own kind of marginalized, but still trying to be independent, it's very hard to, not still feel threatened, but feel like like somebody cares enough that if something were to happen to me, that justice would be served. That's kind of what that's been going through my head a lot. Because I easily could just stay at home, feeling sorry for myself, depressed, and I don't like that. I'm externally motivated. I like helping people. Obviously, that's why I come here. But I've been roller coaster of level-headedness, and then something happens. But I've been able to get through it. In general, things are looking up, but it's more long-term stuff. So, you guys are doing great, and I appreciate all of you drivers and staff who are extremely careful out on the roads. It means a lot to me. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All righty, and I don't believe there's anyone to provide public comment online. Just double checking. Okay. That brings us to our consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? I will move that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Action items, accept the shared micromobility feasibility study. General Manager?
Yes, thank you. I'll ask Kiki Doman, our Commute Options Coordinator, to please come up and introduce our presenters and present the staff report.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, President Inos-Presti, members of the board. Thank you for having me here tonight. So over the past 12 months, Cherriots has been working closely with our consultant team at Tool Design to evaluate the opportunities for shared micromobility options within the Salem-Keizer region. Their work has included a comprehensive review of peer programs, local conditions, community input, and then integration opportunities within our very own transit network. Tool Design brings a national expertise in active transportation and micromobility planning, and they have helped us develop a thoughtful, data-driven framework as we consider future mobility options within our community. So please join me in welcoming Malia Shilling from Tool Design, the senior planner on this project and feasibility study, who will present the study's key findings and recommendations. Take it away, Malia.
Thank you, Kiki. I'm going to share my screen, but please let me know if there's any issues with that. Actually, Kiki, oh, here we go. Just want to make sure I'm able to do it. All right, members of the board, thank you for having me here today. Apologies that we are attending virtually. We did plan to come in person, but unfortunately a medical issue didn't allow that to happen. Today's agenda, we want to walk through an overview of the project and the technical analysis we conducted, the results of our community engagement, and really spend the bulk of our time talking about our recommendations and next steps. So first, a quick project overview. So this study really builds on Cherriots' long-range transit plan and the vision to expand as a mobility integrator. Shared micromobility is a strategic tool that can help strengthen those first and last mile connections to fixed route transit. There was a previous bike share system in the region called Ride Salem, which launched in 2019 and closed in 2022. That really demonstrated there was that interest for bike share locally, but the system had a few challenges that made it difficult for it to remain viable. There was a limited fleet with 33 bikes in the whole system at its peak, an average of only 20 bikes deployed on average, and a really limited footprint of where stations were available for folks to pick up and drop off the bike. That created a pretty unreliable network of bike share. And that combined with vandalism concerns and issues, the impact of the pandemic on ridership, and a lack of sustained funding, all of those factors combined, the nonprofit who was operating the system had some challenges in maintaining fundraising for its operating costs. So some of the lessons learned from that Ride Salem program was we know that the scale of the system, that funding stability, and a sustainable operational structure are really key. So the study had 4 main objectives to assess whether the Salem and Kaiser UGB market could support micromobility, to define the benefits of a system, to evaluate potential business models, and then develop implementation guidelines, program guidelines, and performance metrics. The study had multiple components, which I'll just run through: an existing conditions assessment, looking at the local context, baseline conditions, review and interview with peer agencies. For visioning, we held workshops with both internal and external stakeholders to really establish a shared vision and goal for the region. We also conducted engagement and outreach through surveys, focus groups, and pop-up events. We developed an operational and financial model recommendation for how the system should be run. And then we also created detailed program recommendations and requirements, as well as those performance measures and a phased implementation plan. Our technical work really focused on 2 main questions: where should a system be located geographically, and what structure would really allow it to operate effectively and sustainably. So we talked to agencies in Spokane, in Eugene, in Fort Worth, Texas, and in Pitkin County, Colorado. All of these agencies have active shared micromobility systems. And some of the key takeaways and themes that emerge was parking management of shared micromobility is critical. Docked systems specifically help reduce the sidewalk clutter and public complaints. The business model that you select really determines how much control the public sector has over things like user pricing, equity requirements, levels of service. We know that equity initiatives and strong data sharing agreements are standard practice and should be included in any program, and that integration with transit is a really growing priority but can be challenging to implement. Our existing conditions analysis kind of concluded with an overview of opportunities and challenges. So our opportunities, we know there's alignment with Cherriots' goals. We mentioned the long-range transit plan and the goals of Cherriots to become a mobility integrator. There are still gaps in the active transportation network across the region, but there are plans for a significant build out of bike lanes that would create a more supportive environment for shared micromobility over time. There is supportive topography, meaning a lot of steep hills, especially in areas like downtown Salem, which have high density and would appeal to private operators of shared micromobility. And we also know that a large portion of Cherriots riders don't have a driver's license, 70% of them, and 50% have limited access to a vehicle. So shared micromobility can really help bridge the gaps between people traveling from their home to transit stops, especially for those who don't have a lot of transportation options. We also know that around a third of commute trips are less than 15 minutes. That's a great opportunity to shift from a car to micromobility. There also are some challenges we identified. We know there's multiple jurisdictions in the region that would need to be coordinating for planning, permitting, and operations. We know that Cherriots riders are 5 times more likely to live in households that earn less than $10,000 per year compared to other residents in the region. So we would need to make sure that equitable access to the system is prioritized. And there also are infrastructural barriers, the river, the interstate. And there's a culture of driving in not just Salem and Kaiser in the region, but in the entire country. So shifting that and that significant behavior change is going to be a challenge. So to understand where this program could be piloted and located, we conducted a spatial scoring analysis across the entire UGB. So each area was scored based on population and employment density, proximity to major destinations and high quality transit, existing infrastructure barriers, as well as the bike infrastructure network, and equity focus areas. So based on this analysis, we identified some high opportunity clusters. So you can see on the map on the right-hand side, the way that we scored potential ridership demand. And so those highest scoring areas were concentrated in downtown Salem and West Salem. We also can see some additional opportunity areas in North Salem, along the Lancaster corridor, and also along River Road in Kaiser. Those are those red kind of hot spots in the map. So these findings really guided our recommendations, trying to focus first where success is most likely. Next, I'll take a quick moment to talk about what we heard from the community. So like I mentioned earlier, we conducted a survey, pop-ups, and focus groups. We received over 300 survey responses and also used some targeted online outreach to promote the survey and the project. What we heard from the community, so 80% of survey respondents felt either neutral to very positive about introducing a shared micromobility program. And we saw that almost half of them don't have access to a personal bike or scooter, and 40% said they ride transit weekly. So that combination really suggests that opportunity for shared micromobility to provide better access and that first last mile connection to transit. We also heard that the community clearly preferred docked bike share over dockless scooters. There was also a strong preference for e-bikes. We also heard concerns about theft, vandalism, safety, as well as pricing. Most respondents also said they would be more likely to use the system if pricing was affordable and there was safe bike infrastructure. So now I'll move us into our program recommendations. So we brought this scenario analysis to the board, I believe, back in June of last year, where we were evaluating 3 possible implementation scenarios, a low resource, a medium resource, and a high resource. Each represents kind of a different balance of financial commitment from the public sector, levels of control, and operational complexity, as well as risk. Based on our analysis as well as feedback from the board, we moved forward recommending the medium resource model. What that means is a privately owned and operated docked or hybrid bike share system with approximately 250 bikes, with at least 50% of those bikes being e-bikes, the other 50% being pedal bikes. The operations would be 24/7 availability. And there would also be potentially an operating subsidy provided by Cherriots to maintain that affordability, those equity standards. On the next slide, we have a breakdown of what that means in terms of roles and responsibilities. You can see for Cherriots, for partner jurisdictions, for the operator, and for any sponsors and advertisers. So in this structure, the medium resource scenario, Cherriots would serve as lead in multiple roles. So administering the program, managing a contract with a third-party operator, and really leading any strategic programmatic decisions. We do also recommend convening a technical advisory committee made up of the partner jurisdictions and any other key stakeholders that can convene regularly, facilitated by Cherriots. Partner jurisdictions would assist with siting the docking stations for the bike share and any permitting involved with that. The third-party operator, like we stated before, would be responsible for owning and maintaining the fleet. They would provide all the equipment and technology needed. Sponsors could provide supplemental funding to the program, but Cherriots would be a lead funder for this, providing that operating subsidy, which I'll talk about a little bit more on subsequent slides. I also wanted to talk about what the system parking would look like. It was something we heard about a lot in our community engagement process. We're recommending a primarily docked system where users have to check out and return their bikes to a designated station, but we're also providing some flexibility for interested operators to propose parking solutions in addition to those traditional docks that can help ensure that bikes are distributed equitably, as well as that they stay parked in an orderly fashion. So this slide shows some multiple parking solutions. On the far left, you see those traditional docking stations. Bike share programs have also utilized existing bike parking or designated bike parking areas using things like paint and bollards and flexible delineators to provide that physical kind of corral. Operators have also used what's called virtual geofencing. So within the app that you use to check out your bike, you're also given information on where you can and can't park. And in some cases, you aren't allowed to end your ride unless you are parked in that virtual geofenced zone. So there's a variety of options for orderly parking management. Again, we're recommending primarily a docked system, but allowing operators to propose some of these other options as a supplement to that as well. So this is the exciting part, our proposed pilot service area. So our proposed pilot covers around 12 square miles in downtown and West Salem. These are the areas you can see we've highlighted with that red box where we saw the strongest potential ridership based on our analysis. So our goals with this pilot service area are really establishing that proof of concept, getting the community familiar with the program, and trying to generate really strong early ridership. So starting in that highest demand area, we think will maximize the likelihood of a successful program. In terms of phasing, like we mentioned, there would be a pilot launch, about a 24-month pilot that would be the fleet deployment, and like we said, establishing that proof of concept. In phase 2, which could begin around years 3 and 4 of the program, would focus on expansion and optimization based on performance. In the mature phase, years 5 and onward, the system could potentially incorporate new technology and expand wider throughout the region. When we're thinking about expansion in future phases, one of our recommendations is contiguous service expansion, so meaning expansion immediately adjacent to the initial pilot area. The reason for that is to get the benefits of network effect. We know that bike share systems really perform best when they operate as a connected grid, not kind of isolated pockets. So expanding outward from downtown and West Salem really helps strengthen the trip reliability, improves rebalancing of bikes across the service area, and increases the number of kind of these origin destination opportunities. Expansion could be aligned with things like new bikeway infrastructure investment, transit service improvements, or just seeing where ridership is happening. You can see on this slide, we have an example from Portland and how they expanded their service area contiguously. You can see that red is their 2020 expansion, and then on the lower image shows their 2024 expansion. But we also understand that satellite service areas could serve some higher need communities. We want to align with areas that have this high demand. Maybe they're not connected to that core service area. So satellite systems, so you can see on the right-hand side is an example of the WeCycle system in the Aspen area in Colorado. You can see that there are basically these pockets like we were talking about earlier where bike share stations are available. When you have these satellite service areas, there are some trade-offs. They tend to increase operational complexity for those things like rebalancing and deploying those bikes. They're not strengthening that network effect. And so usually they're requiring higher operating costs and more active management to make sure that the system is still reliable. But we do understand that there could be areas of interest in the future. For example, the Lancaster corridor near Chemeketa Community College. That could be a potential strong future satellite candidate that we identify in the study. So both our analysis and the community and stakeholder feedback we received identified this corridor as high opportunity and high need. There is high density, there's high quality transit, and there's a student population that often doesn't have access to a vehicle. If the system were to pursue this in the future, this would likely function along kind of that key corridor anchored by transit stops and those institutional destinations. Now we get to talk about costs. One thing that we did as part of our study was really dig into what these peer agencies and other programs similar to what would be proposed in Salem, what their system is costing. So our estimates show that a 250 bike dock system would be about $450,000 per year, about $1,800 per bike annually. This would be in a system where the operator would provide maintenance, the fleet, and the day-to-day operational service. basis. Does not represent any capital investment from Cherriots or other public agencies. So that's our annual estimate for the cost to run this system on an annual basis. In terms of funding options, like I mentioned earlier, the way that we've structured our program recommendation includes asking operators to propose what it would cost on a per bike per year basis to operate the system with those parameters of the pilot service area and around 250 bikes. So this would kind of dictate what that potential subsidy from Cherriots could be. There are opportunities for revenue sharing with a third-party operator, and so some of the costs from that subsidy could be recouped through revenue sharing from farebox recovery. We also have included an option for an operator to decide that they would like to pursue sponsorship instead of or in addition to that subsidy, and that would be something that they could negotiate with Cherriots. So it would be operators taking on the responsibility of securing sponsorships or advertising. Potential opportunities there could be including the Cherriots brand into the bikes as well as another primary funder, maybe the sponsors placing their branding on vehicles or the mobile app, etc. Again, the use of any advertising would be subject to local regulations and approval of from Cherriots. In terms of funding opportunities that Cherriots can pursue, we know there are the ODOT Innovative Mobility Grants. The next round in 2027 will be able to support the startup and operational costs of a program like this, so pilot shared mobility services as well as any expansions of those services. There's also an opportunity to utilize STIF funds. Lane Transit District for the Peace Health bike share system, they've spent 1.7 million of their STIF dollars to invest in growing that bike share system. So that's just a case study of another agency who was able to utilize STIF funds for bike share. And we know that Cherriots would not be in this alone. There would need to be support from partner agencies, and they've been included as part of our stakeholder engagement in reviewing and giving feedback on these recommendations. Partner agencies could provide in-kind support for things like permitting in the local right-of-way, supporting outreach and engagement, and helping with data collection and analysis. There could also be opportunities to leverage warehouse or any locally city-owned property to support the operator for a warehouse, etc. Cities could also potentially help purchase and install racks and corrals for the bike share, as well as direct funding support. One thing that we made clear in the report is the need for clear intergovernmental agreements. So really making sure that those responsibilities that we laid out on that previous slide are clearly defined. Lastly, I'll talk about some next steps. So across the kind of getting to the launch phase and continuing, the first thing we see is that partner coordination, developing those IGAs to really clarify those roles and responsibilities. And the next is issuing an RFI to get a clear understanding of specifically for the Salem Kaiser UGB, what operators estimate their costs would be. And Cherriots would need to approve that subsidy for that pilot phase. Procurement would happen through an RFP, and pre-launch, there would be program branding, coordinating with partner agencies for station siting and permitting, and overseeing the fleet procurement and setup. That would mainly be the responsibility of the operator. The pilot service area would launch with likely a public launch event and some demonstrations to really build community familiarity and excitement around the system. And then ongoing performance measurement would be really key for ensuring the system is able to stay sustainable. So our report includes some KPIs around ridership, equitable access, parking compliance, cost recovery, and transit integration. And tracking those metrics will really help guide where and when expansion can happen in later phases of the project. So that's the conclusion of my presentation, and I know that myself, my colleague Adrian, and Kiki are available for any questions, and we can go back to any slide as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schilling. Do we have any questions from the board? Director Davidson?
Malia, Adrian, Kiki, thank you very much for all the work that went into this. I know it was a lot. I guess I'll first express some reservations about the recommendation to go with the medium recommendation to not have it publicly owned. And I'll pose a few questions, and I'd love if you could maybe talk about why that recommendation was ultimately the recommendation. You noted that the customers or prospective customers were very sensitive to price. And my impression of many privately owned systems with varying levels of subsidy is that they are not catering to the price-sensitive user. And so I'd love it if you could speak to that. And then the second question I have is, does your calculus change if Cherriots is able to take on the capital costs or the equipment through a grant, whether that's the Innovative Mobility Program, but if that portion is taken on, so the high upfront cost is taken on by a third party functionally, but Cherriots owns it, does your recommendation change based on that information?
Those are two really great questions. I'll answer first, and then Adrian, if you want to add anything as well. So the first around the selection of that medium resource scenario. So that based on our analysis and input from the board and also the executive leadership team, really balancing the desire to launch on I won't say quick time frame, but quicker than needing to pursue grant funding for a publicly owned system. There's also a little bit more flexibility in terms of the technology in the medium resource scenario. If Cherriots or another public agency was to procure the capital assets, you're then not stuck with them, but for the life cycle of that equipment, it's unlikely that you're going to be replacing them as new technology and new equipment becomes available. With a private operator, you get the benefit of their R&D and potential updates and additions to the fleet as new equipment comes online. Anything you want to add to that first question, Adrian, and then we can get to the second one as well?
No, part of the question from Director Davidson was around the price sensitivity piece, and I think the medium term is in some ways, the medium resource scenario is in some ways intended to offer a bit of the best of both worlds, specifically to that issue. We know that if it's a fully private system, there's less control over particularly things like pricing for the public agency, which often leads to there's sort of higher cost, higher prices. By having some skin in the game with an investment into, for example, operations, you get a lot more ownership over the decision making around the program, and that could include making a values decision, essentially, to say, hey, we are putting in the money towards operating this program for, in return, keeping prices low, equitable program development to make sure memberships and access is highly available. So in some ways, by putting in that investment, even in the medium scenario, you're getting some of those things, especially around price sensitivity, addressed.
And I'll add an example that we were looking at in the city of Boston. So they do own their equipment, but they historically have not provided any sort of operating subsidy to their private operator. They saw that user pricing was escalated, and so they provided a targeted subsidy to the operator specifically to offer all residents of the city $5 a month memberships. So in this medium resource scenario, you're not precluded from that kind of targeted pricing subsidy. And that's kind of how we set it up, so that based on public agency priorities, that subsidy can target those specific areas. There's also a kind of base level of operational subsidy for a docked bike share system to be viable, because requiring the operator to front all of those upfront costs to deploy their technology, they're going to want to make sure they can have a return on their investment, which is why that operational subsidy exists to ensure that they're not just necessarily relying on fare box recovery to recoup that investment. Again, if the city has public ownership of the equipment, that operational subsidy will likely decrease. Most operators that offer this kind of turnkey model where they're providing operations and equipment together, they kind of package in the cost of their capital assets. If the city was to, or if the Cherriots or the city, some combination of both, were to pursue procuring those capital assets, the cost to then pay a third-party operator that operational subsidy would likely decrease.
Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, thank you very much for those answers. If I heard you correctly, Malia, you mentioned that under this medium resource option, that Cherriots could, in effect, act as a sponsor, a name sponsor, where our name could be on the bike, because we, as you've noted, we have skin in the game. We've got dollars in there. I assume that's just I guess, what are the trade-offs there? Not trade-offs. Does that preclude them from doing a sponsorship on the wheel or anything like that? Like, does that, I assume it's less attractive because you're not the title sponsor, but yeah, please.
Sure. I mean, sponsorship can scale if part of Cherriots providing that subsidy is, hey, we want all the bikes to be branded as Cherriots Bike Share. That does reduce the opportunity for other high visibility sponsorship, but usually a lot of these systems will structure sponsorship. There's title sponsorship, which obviously is reflected in the name of the system and usually some branding on the vehicles, but you could also sponsor a station, a kiosk. There's smaller levels of sponsorship. So for example, the Peace Health system, they have that major sponsor, but then they also have smaller sponsorships that are not those title sponsor levels, but allow for recognition in either the physical environment or potentially online in the app, et cetera.
Can I just add to that?
Oh, please.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. There's a number of examples of something similar to this. So, for example, RTC in Las Vegas is sort of the primary funder of their program. So they have essentially like the RTC colors are represented on the bike with the stem, prominently saying RTC Bike Share, but the baskets and the wheel covers are available for sponsorship. I think the other thing to note about sponsorship is a couple of things. One is that it actually takes quite a lot of effort to go out and find those sponsors, and oftentimes that requires like paying someone to go and do that, and so the return on that investment needs to be considered as well. And then the second thing I was going to mention about that is that we're seeing that sponsorship amounts, because I think bike share has been around for a lot longer now, that those amounts and the attractiveness of bike share as a sort of sponsorship commodity is actually probably decreasing a little bit, just because it's not as new and it's not as novel anymore. There's still interest out there, but I think the amount that you can really get from a sponsorship is starting to go down a little as well. And then lastly, part of the procurement will have to be written around having the ability to brand the bikes. So there are privately operated programs that aren't sort of white label products. So, for example, your Limes or your Birds, they want to have their brand represented. So, if that's an important thing to have this branded with Cherriots to sort of highlight it as part of the transit system and you guys as a mobility integrator, then that specification needs to be written into the RFP as well, because it's not always possible for some of these program vendors.
President, could I have one more question? Yeah. Lastly, could you talk about transit integration with a privately owned bike share system? Like if, one of our stated goals has been first mile, last mile. So if I get off the bus, am I going to have to pay for another fare, or can we embed that into the contract And, well, if we were to embed it into the contract, would any private operator be interested in that? Because I imagine that changes the whole profitability scale is different if they're having to somehow accept people who had previously been on a bus.
And I think that is one of the main reasons for the recommendation to include that operational subsidy, because it gives Cherriots the ability to control that pricing. I think the challenge with transit integration is not even necessarily about operators being willing to do it, but about the systems that existing transit agencies have for fare payment collection. If it is a closed loop system, it's not going to be possible to have the kind of fare integration where you can use your phone or your transit card to tap onto the bus and then to unlock a bike. And that's mainly a function of the software and the contract that the transit agency has with their like payment collector and payment processing system. There are other forms of transit integration like co-branding, having Cherriots buses promote the bike share program, having the bus station ads promote the bike share program, co-locating bike share stations next to high-use transit stops. That physical and wayfinding and branding side of transit integration is definitely more feasible. Fare integration can be just really challenging.
Sad
Thank
one
you
thing
very
about
much.
is that you've also got a partner agency right down the road that's looking at this exact thing right now. So LTD is currently exploring, how their bike share system could maybe the next iteration of their bike share program could better integrate in terms of, fare integration, ticket integration, those sorts of things. So there's others that are going through this at the moment as well, and especially someone who maybe, I don't know your relationship with LTD, but that's working closely just down the road.
Thank you very much.
Other questions? Yes, Director Duncan.
Thank you so much for this presentation. I'm so excited to hear about this. My first question is potentially obvious. I don't know. Helmets, how do we do that? Most people are downtown and maybe don't have one with them. And I also think it's important to point out that I did double check. Oregon law does require under 16-year-olds to wear a helmet while driving or while riding a bike. And so I just want to make sure that we're thinking of that and that we have a plan for it. And I wondered what other agencies are doing. So yeah, can we talk about helmets a little bit?
Sure. So typically in shared micromobility systems, users of the shared fleet need to be at least 18 years old. We anticipate that would likely be the same for any shared micromobility system in the Salem-Keizer UGB. There are some cases where providers or operators, as part of their contract, will do things like helmet giveaways when they do outreach. It is very rare for a shared fleet to also come with a helmet. And that's not just because of the cost of the helmet, it's also because of riders' willingness to use a helmet that someone else has been using. The idea of like a shared helmet has proven to be not very popular for shared fleets. Adrian, is there anything you want to add?
I think you covered it mostly. Yeah, it has been done to provide helmets with the bikes, but it does add significant operational cost. As well as helmet giveaways, I know other operators have looked at, can they maybe partner with, local stores, or maybe it's at the Cherriots ticket center or something like that, where someone could get a helmet, but obviously there's an additional barrier there to being able to access that. So it's not something that's typically done with the bikes themselves, but is very much encouraged for sure.
Thank you very much. Are there any models of like check-in, check-out systems? We do have a transit center that would be basically in the middle of this area. And so just curious if there would be, which obviously is not comprehensive and wouldn't provide for everywhere, but would provide an option. And I was just curious if there is a model for it that you know of, could you share it with us just so we could consider it alongside like what we're looking at doing?
I can't think of one off the top of my head. I don't know if Adrian, you can, but I think the precedent for allowing folks to either get a free helmet, like we mentioned from the operator, that has been done at community events, at centralized locations. So I think what you're proposing is not super out of the norm. And if Cherriots is interested in pursuing that, I think that would be something that would really help increase safety for folks riding their bikes.
Thank you. I do have one more question, if that's all right. But before I do, I just want to encourage the board that we don't forget about that topic and maybe bring it back later. I love the idea of the free helmet giveaway. I've participated back when I volunteered for Legacy Emmanuel Children's Hospital. I used to help give away helmets to people, and it was great. My only worry is that the idea of the bike share program is you're downtown and you can just hop on a bike, and how nice is that? And you probably don't carry your helmet around with you. I don't know about you guys, but I find mine to be relatively cumbersome, and if I can leave it at home, I do. So I just want to make sure that we keep that in mind. And then I think this is kind of what you were getting at with the last question about the integration to UMO, which is the app that we use. And I think you said that it'll depend on the contractor if we were to contract privately. Do we know of any possibility? I guess maybe I was a little unclear from the answer of the last question of if there's any possibility to integrate with UMO or not.
My understanding, and this is coming from information that LTD has shared, they're currently doing kind of a fair roadmap process, is that UMO is a closed loop system, so integration with something like bike share or shared micromobility is not currently possible. But I don't want to state that as a fact, that's just my current understanding.
Do you know if, and it's okay, we might have to follow up with them, but partial integration, like could we include it in the map or like as part of the trip options, even if you could not purchase it that way? So if you were using your app and you were looking for the way to get home, it could include the bike share piece or to get to your next location. Our bus system, because we are a hub and spoke model, doesn't have a ton of routes that are made to function specifically like around this area that we're looking at. So like if you want to go from one end of downtown to the other, you would probably have to stop at the transit center and move over. So it might be helpful for somebody going from one side of downtown to the other. And I guess that would be my question. There's been times I've been going from the office to the library and they're just like, just walk, don't even, just walk. So I was just curious.
That's a good question. I think trip planning integration is much more easy to implement than fare integration. There's a lot of systems that have that trip planning. Like, for example, in the transit app, you're able to see, you would see this is a Cherriots bus route option, and then this is the bike share option. And other agencies I know have implemented that.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's all my questions, at least for now, unless somebody says something smart, makes me think of something. So thank you.
I was going to say, we
Dr.
can
Holmes.
also follow up with Kiki. I think I've seen that with the UMO app, specifically the trip planning function, but
Yes.
I would have to look back and find it. So we can follow up with Kiki on that.
Director Holmstrom, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you again very much for the presentation and your work on the study. I appreciate that a lot. It's a lot of good potential here for sure. I just have one kind of narrow question. You recommend a split fleet of pedal bikes and e-bikes. What's the rationale behind having that mixed fleet?
Great question.
That's a good question. E-bikes tend to be just generally more expensive, but also way more in demand. So having that mix allows for kind of the cost effectiveness so that e-bikes are available for folks that want them, but also that pedal bikes are available. We know that the charging of e-micromobility is a large operational cost. So in thinking about kind of strategically creating a fleet where you have that electrified option if you want it, but we're also keeping costs low, I think in terms of user pricing as well in systems, you'll see most docked bike share systems charge more for their e-bikes. That is something that Cherriots with a subsidy, you could kind of create fare parity or, ride parity between e-bikes and pedal bikes. But from an operational cost perspective, e-bikes are materially far more expensive to both procure and operate than pedal bikes. So that was one of the main reasonings behind the mix, but I'll turn it to Adrian if there's anything to add.
You covered it. It's mostly that. I don't think it's I think it's something that's definitely, that balance doesn't have to necessarily be 50-50, but we thought that there's some sort of cost equation there that you need to probably weigh up as to determine what that percentage should be. And the primary operating cost is really that unless you're actually electrifying the stations and plugging them into the electric grid, the operator really has to go and find the bike when it has a flat battery, have charged a set of batteries in their warehouse, bring them out, swap them out, go and charge the batteries again. So there is a world potentially where you could look at electrifying. They think only like 30% of the stations need to be electrified to allow the whole fleet to charge, but that's a higher capital cost and another set of sort of challenges essentially with like permitting and other things that you could look at. But if it's going to be a battery swap equation, then it's probably somewhere in that sort of 50% range.
Thank you.
Director Navarro, any questions?
I do, sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I was trying to hold my questions because I'm not sure if I'm asking this right. But because UMO is a closed loop system, is there an opportunity, because UMO does come with a QR code that gets scanned on the buses when we load, is there an opportunity for somebody to be able to use that QR code to scan that at a docking station, receive a discount, and use that as a form of payment through the third party that's managing the bikes?
That's a good question. I don't think I can give you a definitive yes or no, but that would be something that in an RFI or an RFP, you can include as a priority or as a need to have and see how operators respond. I think it really depends on being able to provide all the information about the UMO system and its capacities to those operators. When we've talked to operators, they've expressed willingness for that fare integration, transit integration as much as possible, but kind of the obstacle there has usually been the transit agency's payment processor.
And it sounds like if that were an option, then the docking stations would most definitely need to be electrified.
Not necessarily. So most docking stations will have a kiosk that you can use if you're not using the app to pull out a bike, and those are generally solar powered because they require such a low electricity draw.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem.
And I see Chief Ulazum wants to add something.
Yeah, thank you on the fare collection system. So we can actually address this during the RFI process. So there are a lot of providers, they actually have their own app. So they come with it. So, and then we can easily integrate this, whether it's UMO or any other trip planning, if Cherriots come up with the official trip planning tool. So we can actually integrate that with that. So it is possible. So we don't have to figure this out now. But I think when we release the RFP or RFI, so we can make that as a requirement. And so it's possible. So make it easy with the trip planning and payment.
Okay. Any final questions? Seeing none. Oh, Director Davidson.
One last question. I believe Tool Design got the statewide contract to look at bike shares in small to medium-sized cities. If I have that right, are there any observations from that that might be relevant to us today?
Fortunately, I believe it was our competitors. No, we did not get that contract, but we have done a lot of work around the country. We work with the North American Bike Share and Scooter Share Association on their State of the Industry report, and have worked on similar projects around the country. And Malia presented some of the findings from our peer communities review, but we really did sort of bring in as much of that experience as we could, not just from those 4 or 5 communities, and in particular thought about transit integration and sort of the size and context of the community that's in Salem. So those 5 case studies kind of represent a nice blend of those, and there's a lot more detail in the report on some of those actual case studies themselves. But we're also happy to follow up on any other sort of have you seen this somewhere else or anything like that you might have questions on.
Thank you, and sorry for bringing up what might have been a sore subject.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this presentation and all the information in the packet as well. If folks haven't had the chance to like in-depth review the packet, one thing that I noticed that didn't get asked about was a lending library, and I just appreciated that additional inclusion of just like literally going from the things that would cost us absolutely nothing to the things that would cost us the most amount of money but have like the most public benefit good. And so I think we definitely have a lot to discuss and decide on. So thank you again. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, go ahead.
I move that the board accept district's shared mobility feasibility. I move that the board accept the district's shared micromobility feasibility study as presented in attachment A and review the study recommendations in a future board work session to determine a strategy to move forward.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? No? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, and that will bring us to our next item. General Manager Pollock.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll ask Bobby Kidd, our Strategic Initiatives Administrator, to please come forward and present the report.
Good evening, President Hinojosa Pressey and members of the board. It's really great to be back. And I would like to say a big thank you to Kira Pressey for giving an amazing Q1 presentation in my absence. But like I said, I'm really excited to be back here with you this evening to discuss Q2's progress and the strategic work plan.
I mean, no shade to our wonderful board clerk, but there was just a little pizzazz missing, you know.
All right, so I always like to start with the guiding principles. I'd like to make note that the guiding principles, we are approaching the 5-year anniversary here soon of having these guiding principles. I cannot believe how quickly the time has gone, but it's really amazing to see the vision, mission, and values and how they have shaped our strategic work plan and how we show up each day working at Cherriots. So I'd like just to highlight that we're approaching 5 years. So today we're going to be discussing the work plan, which is the plan that we update each year with the specific goals, and this is fiscal year 26's work plan. And what's really exciting is that how we decide upon what success looks like for Cherriots is in 4 buckets: community value, customer satisfaction, culture of ownership, and financial sustainability. Well, we have the survey results for the community, customer, and employee, so we actually can update our goals around success outcomes. So we went into fiscal year 26 saying that we wanted to maintain or exceed a community value score of over 84. And we were very close with 76, still extremely high, but not quite at 84, which was our goal. For customer satisfaction, that's the satisfaction survey, we wanted to maintain or exceed customer satisfaction net promoter score for fixed route no less than 52, and for Lyft no less than 51. So let's see how we did. For fixed route, oh, the anticipation, 65. So no less than 52, we far surpassed that with a 65, an amazing number. And for Lyft, no less than 51, we were also at 65, so nailed that one. For culture of ownership, our goal was to increase our employee engagement score over the previous year by 5 percentage points. And we did by 7 points. So our goal is 5, and we increased by 7. So super great job to Team Cherriots, everybody involved. And financial sustainability, just to highlight that we are in the process of working towards the success outcome of developing and implementing policies and strategies that support long-term financial sustainability. Okay, so those 4 success outcomes, we have our organizational goals that follow under each of those. And we are going to be able to hear from Chief Olazum and from Planning and Development to highlight the customer experience, access, and ridership growth goal for Q2 progress.
Thank you. Good evening, President Enos Presi and other Board of Directors. So for that particular goal, we have two strategies identified. Number one strategy is to implement pilot programs, partnerships, and initiatives to enhance the customer experience and increase ridership. To do that, we have already executed one partnership with Swiftly, and they're helping us with cleansing our APC data. So the work is in progress, and we're hoping to get this APC data cleanse completion by within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So that will be huge for us. And then we're also exploring potential technology partnership opportunity for better trip planning for our riders. So this is something that we're exploring as of now, and more to come in the next quarter. And we're also working on developing a flexible transit pass program. So we have our group pass program, so we're kind of like making it more flexible, and we presented it a few months ago to the board, offering new flexible options like tier-based and usage-based. Work in progress, not done yet. And strategy 2, we have complete a bus stop accessibility assessment and develop an improvement plan. So if you remember it, we have completed our bus stop inventory last June and July. And since then, we're actually patiently waiting for that stop level APC data. This is the last piece of the puzzle. So once we have that, all the other information is there, then we're gonna complete our bus stop accessibility assessment report. So I'm hoping that planning team will get it done before the end of this fiscal year. So that is in progress. And some good news I'd like to share about semi-seat installation. So last November, we have installed 2 semi-seats, Route 7 and Route 9, winter at Salem Hospital. Another one is at Cherry and Plymouth Road. And another good news, this month we have installed 10 more in Northeast Salem. Route covering Route 9, 3, 13, 11, 5, Route 12. So those are the routes we have installed. And there are like 9 more to be installed within 2 to 3 weeks from now. And those will be installed hopefully by 2 to 3 weeks. And as part of our Group 6 bus stop improvement, there are 6 more. So in total of 25 semi-seats to be installed in this fiscal year. That's our goal. So far, we have already installed 12, so 13 to come. That's it.
Thank you so much. You can see why I was so excited for him to be able to highlight that information. So thank you so much.
Well, and I love when anybody gives attention to Route 12.
Bonus. Okay, so we have 9 organizational goals and we have 15 divisional goals. This is highlighting Q2 progress, and as of the end of Q2, all goals, both organizational and divisional, are in progress. And so that means we are well on track to hopefully be completing these by the end of the fiscal year. We are already halfway through the fiscal year, well over half, so good work. Okay, so to wrap things up before I take questions, like I was just saying, we finished Q2, but we're in the middle of Q3 now, so we are well underway for Q3 progress as well. I had the opportunity to attend modernization of transit's value working groups with TransPro, and they hosted 4: safety and security, financial stability, connectivity, environmental stewardship. I was able to attend the environmental stewardship, and it was a really great experience because they're working to define KPIs or KPI workshops and trying to align at the national level. And so I will have more information for all of you on what's coming from those workshops in the following quarters. And then to wrap things up, we are finalizing goals for fiscal year 27. So we're in the middle of Q3, so we're doing all of fiscal year 26's work, and then we are finalizing the work plan for fiscal year 27 as well. And those goals are in the process of being finalized, and the new work plan will be ready to go in the next month or 2, well before the next fiscal year. All right, I would love to take any questions if you have them.
Wonderful. Do we have any questions? No, we're good? Awesome. Well,
thank you
so much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so that's going to bring us to our performance report. And Bobby can't present that one too?
No.
Oh, okay.
But Chief Ulazum can, so please come forward.
All right. Good evening, President Inos Presi and other Board of Directors. I'm here to present our FY26 Q2 Agency Performance Report. This quarter reflects a stable and high-performing systems, while ridership has plateaued, but the underlying factors like the fundamentals such as service reliability and productivity, safety, and customer experience all remain strong and in some cases are improving. Tonight, I'm going to highlight some system performance trend and some major accomplishments that we have achieved and what to look for in Q3. All right, so this is the summary in a nutshell what happened at the organization. So as I have mentioned, ridership has plateaued in this quarter, so there is no change year over year. We have delivered about just a little over 900,000 ridership, and year to date, we have delivered 1.8 million ridership. In addition to ridership, if you look at this like system reliability, service reliability, I think those are other variables that we should highlight as part of the performance. So 99.97% of the planned service delivered, that means customer can actually rely on us, the bus will come. And another key aspect is on-time performance. So this is also another key determinant, like whether or not I'm going to take bus or not. So this is the first time we have exceeded for both local and regional services our goal of 85% or more. More to come later on. So the key takeaway here is our foundations remain strong, even though ridership kind of plateaued, and because there is no additional services or additional frequency added to the service. This is the month over month in comparison to the last fiscal year as well. So as you see, pretty much identical numbers for last year and this year. So all the dots are pretty much aligned. So as I said, ridership is plateaued, so it's not a surprise. It's kind of like the same service level and same ridership there. But I would like to highlight some other aspects. For example, we need to understand like how system has changed. For example, back in 2006, I mean the service level that we have right now, which is 9.8% higher than that, but ridership is not there. And part of the reason is people's travel movement has changed. Because of COVID, things have changed. Some things have changed permanently. State workers, they're not coming back. And some hybrid work, and even the lifestyle has changed. So what we need to do, we also need to evolve our system to match with this evolving transit need or mobility needs. So for that, we are focusing on our service reliability, and we have recently drafted a service enhancements plan to address those needs, how we can match to those changing needs. With that being said, I would also like to highlight the accessibility piece, which is another thing in addition to ridership, on-time performance, and we just need to know like how we're doing on that side. About 60,000, just a little over 60,000 minority residents can access to Cherriots local service, which is about 76% of all minority population within our UGB. And if you look at the low-income households, majority of our riders in the low-income households, about 78% of the low-income households within the urban growth boundary, they have access to our system. So the point I'm trying to make is it's not just the frequency, it also we provide services to ensure the equity to offer the service where the most demand is. Still, there are gaps. So additional revenue and additional resources and additional service level and frequency would definitely help us to breach those gaps. And also the accessibility-wise, only 18% bus stops are not ADA accessible, but that means 82% are. So we have an active project going on. So our goal is to make sure that pretty much all of those stops are accessible. So when you have all those pieces in place, then to me, that's the true success criteria in addition to the ridership. So we need to look at the 360-degree view of all the performance metrics in addition to ridership. And yeah, so in addition, and also I'd like to highlight what happened on Veterans Day. So if you remember now, we offer Saturday level service on holidays. So that's why you have 52%, a little over 52% more ridership because we have increased service levels. So this is a testament that if you offer better, frequent service, the ridership will grow. This is another testament to that. When it comes to route productivity, which is another key aspect, we look at to measure the efficiency of the systems. Some of those routes, many of those routes are pretty familiar, consistently performing and outperforming our goal, and no surprise in there. And overall, system-wide, our boarding per revenue hour is 11.7, and our most of the high-performing routes, like 21 and 19, consistently over 20 boarding per revenue hours. Some key takeaways from here is pretty much all local coverage routes have increased productivity on Saturdays. So this is our key focus area. We have constantly hearing for the weekend services. We need more services. So if we can offer more frequent services on the weekend, there is a possibility that we'll see a huge increase in the ridership. System productivity, we have also looked at all the routes and how we are doing and which routes has been performing very well in those three different categories. So the number one is highest ridership gain. We have seen on Route 21 about 5,600, and some other routes that we have seen pretty good ridership increase includes 5, 4, and 12. And best on-time performance, Route 26 and 27, we have seen consistently there on-time performances over 90%, 95%-ish. No surprise in there. And productivity-wise, boarding per revenue hour, and we have seen Route 21, again, 22.6. And combining all those three factors, and in this quarter, the best performing routes actually is Route 21. So that's A, and that's on South Commercial Street. And now I'd like to highlight another aspect, on-time performance. So if you look at this comparison from the last year to this year, Q2, we have seen significant reduction in the early, so 10.2% to just a little less than 4%, and which contributes to improvement of our on-time performance, pretty close to 88%. And if you compare this nationally, it's a pretty high number for any system, so 88% is pretty good. And that means riders actually can count on us, and our systems are reliable, and it comes on time. Another piece, in addition to, I think Ellen mentioned something yesterday that sticks to my brain still. The frequency is king. That's true, but there are so many studies and facts in the country and other transit agencies. Reliability is also pretty close. Their reliability and frequency, they go hand in hand. So once you have combination of both of these, I mean, you have pretty good chance that you are pretty close to meeting the expectation of the residents. So we're excited that we're heading that direction. So we hope to continue that momentum. Like to provide some highlight on the Youth Zero Pass program. So last couple of times I've been telling you like ridership is declining, but this is the first time year-over-year comparison we have seen slight increase. So we're getting the momentum. So, and part of the reason was implementation of those verifications. So, but I think once people get it that you have to do it, they started doing it. So this is the first quarter after that implementation of the fare identification. So we have seen first increase. So in this quarter, we have seen 226,000 plus ridership, and in both local and regional, we have seen some ridership growth in both categories. And still, about 25% of all ridership is coming from this particular group. So this is still a huge success for the district. I'd like to highlight, and this is nothing new, so compared to the last time, but still some increase in the total trips delivered, 2.4%, and 2 out of 3 rides we have more than 1 people in our vans and vehicles, so which is really good, and we have pretty good customer rating, 4.9 out of 5. So everything is great. And another key aspects that I personally look at is ADA denial or complaints. Goal is 0, and it is 0. So this is another aspect that we should be proud of, that so far since I've been here, it is always 0. So. Another aspect is on-time performance. You may see that it dropped slightly, and part of the reason is a lot of sick calling in this time. So, our operator was struggling with that, but I hope this will come back again to normal. But no surprises in there. All the other KPIs remain strong. The van pool program, first, if Kiki is still here, so she oversees this program, and this is the largest van pool program in the state of Oregon, and the contribution it has to those 3 counties, Polk, Yamhill, and Marion County. ODOT recognized us, our program in the last conference. So a huge shout out to Kiki for managing this program and contributing to our community. A huge impact to this. And this program also have seen some passenger trips growth in positive direction, about 18%. And part of the reason is because we have more vans now compared to last time. And this program is fully federally funded. So we have secured a little bit more money. And we're planning to grow this program gradually, as we see. And another aspect is occupancy rate is 70%, and our goal is to keep it 70 and maybe achieving 75% if we can, but we're still in very good shape. Safety and reliability metrics, everything met our expectation. Preventable accident per 100K miles traveled and road calls per 10K traveled. So pretty much all of those are aligned with our goal. So huge shout out to the team for providing a safe and reliable service. And in addition to that, I think how clean our bus is, that's another aspect that customer cares about. And so I think our team is doing a pretty good job, and all the feedback that we have received are pretty positive that our buses are clean from different kind of surveys. But last is BEB, exciting stuff. We have 10 vehicles so far, and Tom may have some more details, but it's not bed of roses, but I can tell you that. So we have some good stuff. Buses are running, but some challenges associated to that as well with charging at KTC. But in general, here are some KPIs that I would like to share with you all. Once buses are charged per day, we can run on an average 88 miles. And our regeneration rate is pretty high, so way higher, I would say above the national average, so 33% almost. And our fuel economy is also much better than Altoona benchmark, so roughly about 10% better. So those are all good stuff, but if you have additional question about the charging challenges, I think Tom Ditz can answer those, but we have those challenges as well. There's a good news too. We have received 10 more BEBs. Right. Nine more BEBs, so 1 to come. So that's all about BEBs. So we're excited, and I think all the charging infrastructures and everything is construction is complete. The BEB corridor is complete. Avenue at Del Webb is complete. So all great stuff, and let's see what we can come up with. To finish this presentation, I'd like to cover some major accomplishments district-wide, what we have done so far. I have already mentioned the 2GO award for the van pool program, and I'd like to mention the TSP, Traffic Signal Priority System, is live. So the system is functioning and along the Lancaster corridor, 22 intersections. So it's helping us, if our buses are delayed 3 minutes or more, then it's holding the green light for a little longer so that our buses can go and stick to and maintain the better schedule adherence and improve the on-time performance for Route 11. UMO adoption has gone up about 43%, so it's pretty high number for a local, and also a regional 39%. So majority of those people are using UMO fare card and fare payment system, so it's just great. And we have launched quite a few major capital projects this time: East Salem Transit Center and fare payment replacement, maintenance shop software, KTC Gate project, and many others. I just named a few of them here. So projects are rolling. We're doing stuff. And we have made significant progress with APC data cleansing, and this is really important. So once we have this data ready, that will help our COA project. It's kind of like COA is on hold just because of this, so I hope that this project will move on in pretty short order. And that's pretty much it. And looking ahead, what we're looking at in the next quarter, hopefully we will have that stop level ridership data available, and that will feed into pretty much all of our studies, COA and microtransit study and other study that we're doing, East Salem Transit Center, pretty much everything. So we're excited about this. And then today, board approved the shared micromobility, accepted the shared micromobility study. So, and we have also started microtransit feasibility study, work in progress. I think we just started a couple of weeks ago. We brought a consultant, Agape Mobility. They are doing this study for us. As of last week, we have the final report for origin and destination survey, so more to come. And once we have this ready, I will be happy to share more details on that. But that's coming in the next quarter. That's pretty much it. I'll take any question if you have.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions? Director Davidson? Oh.
Thank you very much for your report. You said something there towards the end that really piqued my interest. Fare system replacement. Does that mean we're looking at getting rid of UMO?
Oh, different.
Or is this the Gen Fare
It's
equipment?
the Gen Fare project.
I mean, that's still good news.
But that is part of the discussion.
It is?
It
Oh,
is.
okay.
It is. The open loop and all those things are
Okay.
part of the discussion.
Wonderful.
Yep.
That's great. And then my last question is around transit signal priority. So if I heard you right, if a bus is behind or running late 3 minutes or more, then and only then TSP is activated. Is that correct?
Yeah, it tracks 3 intersection prior, so it also observe historical data. But yes,
Okay.
if it is behind schedule, then it triggers and try to extend
Behind schedule of 3 minutes or more?
3 minutes or more.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm wondering if TSP could help us to shorten the runs of the 11. It is obviously a very long route. Having ridden most of the length of it a couple of times, it takes a bit. Okay,
Yeah.
you're nodding gleefully, so.
Yes, so that is an active consideration. So this is another secondary byproduct of this project. One is improving the on-time performance, and second thing is exploring the runtime. If there is anything we can improve, our consultant, Light, and our team, planning team, Jeremy, George, they're working on this. If there is any opportunity to improve the runtime in addition to improving the on-time performance, so we're actively working on it.
Great. And then I guess I lied. One half question. When will it expand to other corridors?
So we were actually waiting for this to go right first, make sure that this one is working. So we have been monitoring this tool for several months. And so now it's live and functioning. So we have started our background work. Okay, where should it go next? So we have started the preliminary work, trying to refine the scope, potential corridors, maybe 21, 19, but we're exploring with our potential partners, City of Salem, Kaiser. So we're doing the work, back-end work, so hopefully in the next fiscal year.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, Director Duncan?
Thank you so much. I always so enjoy your reports, truly. And I'm really excited to see the on-time data up, so I hate to bring something up again, but I'm going to bring this up again. A while back ago, I asked about if we had the ability or could start to think about how we measure if people are able to make their transfers. And I know that we can't necessarily do that outside of our transit center very easily, but particularly my morning bus regularly gets in just after all the other buses leave, which is really frustrating because my bus is a once-an-hour bus, and so there's not really an option to come earlier just to be able to like catch the buses better. And it's been an ongoing issue for our area for a while. We got a different driver for a bit, and then we had a different new driver. So I know we've gone through some new people, but I try to make friends with the people on my buses, and it just breaks my heart when they miss their transfer and I know they're going to be late to work or to class or whatever. And I know our rates are up and overall it's going very well, but we can talk afterwards. But if there's something we can do to maybe highlight some of the more pivotal transfers to ensure that they're maybe emphasized, because this is, I'm seeing some support from out in the audience, because this is like the morning, this bus gets in regularly around 8:05, 8:10, and most of the rest of the buses are pulsing out around 8 a.m. And so, we've got people running from this one bus that comes once an hour. And because that's the morning commute piece, I wonder if there's a way that we could maybe highlight those buses, or like the buses that get you home at the end of the day, same kind of thing, and put a little extra emphasis on making sure that those transfers are happening for people, especially from the buses that are coming from like lesser areas. Like my bus comes from South Salem. And we're in a funny little area that doesn't have a ton of service. So I don't know if that's something you're already working on. And I know you collect so much data already, but it has been an ongoing issue for our area. And I wanted to bring it up and ask if there's anything we could do around highlighting really pivotal transfers. Thank you. That was a really long question. I apologize.
No, yeah, I was trying to get it. Okay, so thank you, Director Duncan. I think this is a great question. We can definitely explore that. And one of the things that back-end conversation that we're trying to bring better trip planning tools, so that will collect all those information. So this is one. And also some back-end conversation, but I can say for sure that it'll work, but some work in progress. But I can get work with you to get more additional insight. But yeah.
Okay. Other questions? No? Director Davidson.
It's actually not a question. I just wanted to emphasize the how good Vanpool is and how worthy of kudos that is. I think you maybe undersold it a little bit, maybe out of humility, but I happen to be a colleague with the person who manages Vanpool statewide, and I did not realize this until speaking with her, but Cherriots Vanpool is the gold standard in the state, like far and away. It's not even close. And so much so that is, and when I say gold standard, that is what other Vanpool programs are now angling for. It is a standard that they likely will not be able to achieve for several years, because Cherriots Vanpool, in no small part because of the efforts of Kiki Doman, is just so far out ahead. And so that is remarkable to me. And so thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. I praised it so many times, and I'm like, should I say it more?
Oh, Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Nojas-Pressy. You talked a little about, speaking of Cherriots setting gold standards, you talked a little bit about the average fuel economy being 2.26 kilowatt miles, and that being 9.6% more efficient than the benchmark. Has anybody reached out to Cherriots about kind of doing some research into how we're able to continue doing so good, and seeing about making improvements to other technology that might be available to these kind of buses in the future?
So our partner CTE, they're about to finish up their annual report that has way more data in it. So once this is ready, our 12 months worth of data, then we'll be happy to share those additional details to that. But normally, what contributes to this particular KPI is operators' driving behavior. So how they drive, that kind of determine factors like this. So credit goes to training program that we have. And the second thing is our operators are following the instructions. So this is another piece. And that contributes to regeneration braking, that contributes to this kind of fuel economy and all of the other factors. So those are the few things that I could remember.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you very much for that presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, that is going to bring us to our finance report. And who's going to present this time, General Manager?
So the presenter is Peggy Green, our Budget and Grants Manager.
Hello, good evening, Madam President and members of the board. I prepared the quarterly financial report for second quarter, and we are within budget in all areas. So as you know, the board adopts a budget for the district on an annual basis, and that budget is a plan that contains the district resources and requirements for the year. The quarterly financial report provides information about how that plan is being implemented and includes statements for the general fund, transportation program fund, and capital project fund. The financial report at the end of this memo also shows a comparison of budget to actual. In general fund revenues, the passenger fares are currently at 48% of annual budget. We've received 94% of the annual budgeted property tax revenues. The largest amount does come in November and came in as planned. And throughout the rest of the year, we'll receive smaller increments for that as property taxes are collected. Miscellaneous revenue is currently at 99% of the annual budget. Now, this is largely due to one-time credits and an unexpected state accident insurance credit from 2024 that hit in this year. Interest on investments is at 46% of the annual budget, and in total, general fund revenues are at 53% of the annual budget. In general fund expenditures, the total expenditures are under budget at 46% of the total annual budget. And all divisions in general fund are below the anticipated 50% of total budget. In transportation programs fund revenues, we have passenger fares at 37% of annual budget. Federal funds currently at 52%, state STIF funds currently at 33%, and state funds slightly below the budget for Q2 at 45%. In transportation programs fund expenditures, the total expenditures are at 45% of annual budget, and all programs are in line with the budget as of Q2. The capital fund revenues, we are currently at 10% of the annual budget at the end of Q2. And corresponding, we have the capital funds expenditures at 7% of the annual approved budget for the fiscal year. Now, a large portion of the capital projects fund is within major projects, projects that are in progress. So the expenditures will actually increase as those move along, and we'll see those in Q3 and 4. And corresponding, we would have those revenues, which will increase as we seek reimbursement on the expenses, especially as we have the arrival of the battery electric buses. So we'll be seeing some of that in Q3 and 4. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Do we have any questions? Director Davidson.
Thank you, Manager Green. For the property taxes, apparently an overwhelming majority of residents in the community pay property taxes in the fall. So 94% have come in. Based on past experience, do you have any concerns about the remaining 6% coming in, or are those people just unique animals that don't pay in the fall, but they do pay?
Yes, this is on trend.
Okay.
Definitely on trend.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Now on to, something that I've been awaiting eagerly, our board policy review and update. General Manager.
Yes, this has been a huge project, and I'll ask our Strategic Initiatives Administrator and Clerk of the Board to come up and present the report.
All right, good evening, President Hinojosa-Presti and members of the board. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. We represent 2 of the 3 individuals who make up the district's policy standardization team. We have lovingly nicknamed it PST, so for the sake of this presentation, we might be referring to it as PST. I'd just like to take a quick moment to frame the PST's approach to policy development and review. This work has really been about stewardship. Specifically, board policies are some of the most visible governance documents for the district. They reflect expectations, values, and direction. Our responsibility as staff is to make sure these policies are clear, current, and structured in a way that makes sense. As a team, we've been spending a lot of time asking simple but important questions like, is the language clear and modern? Is it fair and accessible? Is it consistent? We've also tried to build something sustainable, not just around edits, but a process, a way to keep policies aligned as the district grows and adapts. The policies in the packet tonight represent that comprehensive process and lens. With that, I'll turn it over to Kira Pressey to highlight the policies before you and next steps.
Thank you. So the PST, in collaboration with the General Manager and Legal Counsel, has completed its review of the board policies, which are included in your packet. As Bobby stated, the review focused on standardizing format and language, modernizing terminology, and ensuring consistency across board policies. Policies 101 and 103 will be submitted to the state archivist for approval prior to formal board adoption. And we are recommending policy 117 be rescinded. The PST intends to bring these policies forward for formal board action at the March 26th board meeting. To allow the team time to incorporate feedback and present final drafts for consideration, we are requesting that each of you review the draft policies over the next 2 weeks and submit any feedback, suggestions, or suggested revisions or questions to the clerk of the board, myself, by March 12th. We are looking for content changes rather than formatting changes. And to support your review, both red line and clean versions of each policy have been provided for you. If you choose to review virtually, you may notice some strange formatting issues. When we transferred over to PDF, there's some small errors. However, we have provided physical copies for you that are in front of you, and if you'd like to provide handwritten comments, you can turn those in at the work session on March 12th as well. With that, I think we'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Yes, Director Holmstrom.
Please tell us again the important part, which is what we have to review, how much time we have to review it, when you want comments back, and then when we're going to potentially be voting on this. Can you just restate that for us, please?
Absolutely. So legal and the GM division have already reviewed these, so the next 2 weeks is your time to review, and we are asking for your edits by March 12th, which is the date of the next board work session. Ideally, we want your comments in so we can finalize those drafts, and then we're going to give them back to you in enough time for you to review one more time prior to the board meeting, where we will be asking for action.
And then follow up. Are these all of the policies, or are there additional policies as well that aren't part of this package?
These are all the board policies.
Okay.
So the policy team is working on internal policies, like personnel policies, but those won't come to the board from my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you for this work. I know that it's definitely onerous, and I really hope that everyone does their due diligence and turns in their homework on time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Board Bylaws and Advisory Committee Bylaws Review Update. Looks like we've got the clerk of the board again.
Well, again, good evening, President Enos-Pressey and members of the board. The General Manager Division has been working to modernize the district bylaws. The updates in front of you focus on improving clarity and consistency in format and language, and aligning governance practices with current legal requirements and best practices. All revised bylaws have been submitted to legal counsel for their review. However, their comments are not on those bylaws in front of you. They will be for your final review. Any recommended changes, again, we'll incorporate those in the final drafts on March 26th at the board meeting. The draft bylaws, both clean and red line, for the Community Advisory Committee, Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund Advisory Committee, and the Board of Directors are included in your packet. The CAC bylaws, you will notice that those have limited amendments because we have already dug into those quite extensively in this last year. So anything that's changed there is really for standardization more than anything else. We are requesting that each of you again review the drafts over the next 2 weeks, and please submit any feedback or suggested edits to myself by March 12th. Again, we have given you a virtual copy and a physical copy, so if you'd like to handwrite your comments in and provide those at the work session on March 12th, that would greatly be appreciated. And the final versions will be brought forward for formal consideration again on March 26th. And I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions on this? No? Go ahead.
Just a comment. This is so much work that you guys have done, first of all, and then we'll be doing as we inevitably send you our comments, hopefully on time. I know that I also struggle with that, but you only gave yourself like 12 days to put these in, so we'll do our best to make sure that you get them on time. I noticed that. Additionally, I just also want to state how thankful I am that you guys decided to do this and you brought it to us. Making sure that we are constantly reviewing our policies and making sure that they are, as you said, clear, structured, current, and consistent is so important. I cannot tell you how many different places I've been where this has not been done, and it makes actual policy very difficult to move forward as things become outdated, board members aren't aware, or it's just been too long. So this is so helpful to us, so important to do as a district to keep things clean and together, and it's an easy thing to forget about. So thank you so much for the immense amount of work and for making sure that we do not fall behind on this type of important due diligence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Duncan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to our reports. General Manager?
All right, great. So as part of my report, I have some visuals.
Oh. Okay, so just to highlight the amount of work that Director Duncan was saying, Clerk of the Board has to present 2 giant documents. And now she has to run slides?
Yeah. All right, so Chief Azum talked earlier about semi seats, so we have some pictures of what they actually look like. It's one thing to say where they're at, but here are some pictures of the ones that are already installed. Slide. Next slide. So, and one more, I think. Yeah. So they are out there and ready to be used. And then we have mentioned earlier that some are in the process and some are upcoming. So more to come on that. The next set of slides, if you remember, we talked about the yard tug. It is here. Here are some pictures of what it looks like. I can tell you the naming contest is getting organized.
Yes.
But we knew that was important. So, but it just came in this week, right? Yeah. So it's in the yard, and if you happen to be over there, you can check it out. So more to come on the naming convention.
Another question on the yard tug. Will that be a potential thing to drive during the bus rodeo? You know, for consideration. Just a thought.
More to come on that, I guess. So some other things. So we have received a lot of media exposure lately. I've sent you some copies of articles that have been in local news. And then earlier this week, the Statesman Journal had an article, and in today's Salem Reporter, there's an article about our $3 million grant award under the bus and bus facilities for South Salem Transit Center construction. So, and I think I've sent you all the copy of the press release from Senators Merkley and Wyden and Representative Salinas, and I'd like to thank the delegation for their support in helping us secure that $3 million. That is critically important to help us when we're ready to start the construction of that project. Also this month, in addition to these packets, we had in-person general manager roundtables. We held 4 of them. We always have a monthly virtual one, but quarterly we do in-person, where we shared the results of the community value, customer service, and employee engagement surveys with the employees. And a couple weeks ago, we had our winter event where we celebrate winter. We do this in lieu of kind of a holiday party in December because we are so busy at that time, and people are, so we decided to kick off the new year with a winter event. And it was held right in this room, and I had a great event, and everyone seemed to have a good time. And then last week, I did attend the Kaiser Chamber meet and greet for the new CEO, which is Dan Clem, who's a former Salem City Councilor, former Salem Chamber CEO, former Union Gospel Executive Director, but he's now taking over at the Chamber. So I did go there and check in with him and let him know we want to stay connected with the Kaiser Chamber. And that concludes my report.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm going to go with Director Navarro first.
Awesome. Thank you, President Hinojosa Pressy. This month has been kind of slow in Kaiser, but one thing that was really exciting that happened was the City Council adopted their 2026-2030 Kaiser Strategic Plan, establishing a 5-year roadmap to ensure Kaiser remains a thriving and vibrant community. So I'm really excited to read up on that. I haven't gotten around to reading through it yet. But yeah, and it talks about public safety, transportation and infrastructure, economic and community development, and how they wish to foster an engaged community. So really excited about that. And also some news in Kaiser. There's a lot of construction going on, especially on Verda that I take quite frequently. And just a funny story is that I was driving on Verda behind Route 11, and when I looked up and I saw one of the buses, I just instinctively thought green light. Right? I know that's not how it works, but that's just what I thought. So yeah, so I understand why people think that you can just hang out behind a bus and you'll get a green light. You don't. But there is construction happening on Verda, and let's see, there was a notice that went out talking about how starting in March 2nd through March 4th, there will be night work at the intersection of River Road and Lock Haven by the fiber optic contractors that'll be out there. So you might want to avoid that area between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. Or expect to run into some traffic signals that are off and flaggers that will be there. And that concludes my report.
Wonderful. I'm going to go with Director Davidson.
Thank you, President. So the big news this month has been work with the Council of Governments in preparation for the annual meeting or the annual dinner. That'll be at Western Oregon University on March 5th. Doors open at 5 p.m. The program, I guess, starts at 6. And I have been told that it will be over by 8:30. We'll find out. If you've attended those in the past, they tend to go long. But they are very enjoyable. This is also the event where annual awards are given. Thank you to those who have submitted nominations for those. And so very much looking forward to that. That probably concludes my report. The only thing I would add is that in the semi-seat photos, I was struck by that one of them had flowers next to it. And I thought that was beautiful, whimsical, and wonderful.
All right. Director Duncan.
Thank you, Chair Hinojosa Pressy. So I just have a few things to talk about today. Our Community Advisory Committee met again. We introduced some of our new members, new chair, vice chair. We went through a bit of an orientation packet because we have so many wonderful new members, which is very exciting. And we talked a little bit about what a work plan might look like. For those of you who remember, our new bylaws state that we will be working together with the Community Advisory Committee to put together a work plan of what we would like them them to concentrate on. And so that will be upcoming. We will work on that together, but just a reminder for you to be thinking about. If you have any particular suggestions or things, please reach out to me. We are kind of discussing behind the scenes what we think would be a good suggestion to bring to the table, although of course when we all meet, everything's on the table. We've talked a little bit about maybe asking the committee to help us expand on the surveys that we've done, things like that. If there's any particular projects we could ask them to weigh in on. With the new model, all of our individuals kind of have a theme that they have been recruited under, and they know that they're being asked to represent like that community's needs in the community. So if you're a bike rider, we're hoping that you can provide insight on the bike. If you are a Lyft rider, maybe you can provide more insight on the Lyft program. And so just keep that in mind as we're thinking about that upcoming work session. Members asked really good questions and getting ready for that, and we had some good feedback on some specific issues from community members already, and it was great. So just continuing to feel excited about that. I know we still have a couple empty positions, so if you're interested, please check it out. And then I am going to use my platform for just one moment to be a little specific and granular because I can. So I've mentioned before that we have new apartments not far from where I live, and that we have a bunch of kiddos who wait for the bus, for the school bus on a corner every single day, where there is a single strip of sidewalk that is in front of this apartment complex, and it is cut off on both ends. There is no connectivity on either direction. And I noticed this week that there is a new speed sign that has been put in on one side of the sidewalk. So if you are coming from on down 27th away from the Costco and you pass the apartment complex, you will see there is a speed sign indicator, meaning that the city, or I actually haven't looked up who owns this road, knows that there is a problem here. They know there's a speeding issue, and yet we do not have any actual infrastructure that will change it. So this is my kingdom for reminding everybody that if you want a sidewalk in your area and an area that there isn't, or if there is a street lamp out, or that you think you need one, you can submit those on the City of Salem website and you can ask them. And so I encourage you to do so because it is a massive safety issue, and often those things only get done when we ask. And so I'm just taking this moment to use my platform to say that 27th Avenue in front of Morning Star Church really needs a complete sidewalk for those kiddos. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Holmstrom?
Yeah, I think I don't have a report this month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will make my report fairly brief. I definitely want to say quite the shout out to our system and our operators. I'm so glad to see that we had a 52% increase on Veterans Day. I think that just continues to show us the need that our transit system provides. I, on the other hand, had to walk a mile to my closest bus stop. I also want to remind folks, if you're not aware, tomorrow we have a planned high school student walkout, and it will be happening around noon. And I know that most of those students to come from McKay to get to downtown Salem will be riding our Cherriots buses. So I hope that our operators and our riders are able to support them and give them the care and safety that they deserve, because I do know that those students have already received death threats. So just a call to the community to help and support our students. And then the last thing that I wanted to add, and this is kind of an ask to our staff, I was wondering if it would be feasible or a good idea or just terrible to add the phonetic pronunciation of our last names on our board placards. Okay, because names are important. Names connect you to your ancestry and your identity. I am particularly proud of my last names, especially because the first one honors a 17-year-old that had to cross a desert with a gallon of water to get here. So I hope that we're able to do something to make sure that our names are highlighted. That being said, it is now 7:23 p.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you.